Hello, welcome to the Spooky podcast.
Oh, I'm gonna
Well,
wet myself. Oh,
I'm gonna wet myself too. Considering it's near Halloween, we thought we'd jazz it up a bit and,
do a podcast
well, yeah, do a podcast and tell some
about.
spooky stories.
I'm gonna wet myself.
I know you are. Don't worry.
Too scary. Too spooky for you.
Well, would you like to start, Matthew?
What? Oh, I'll start. Okay. I'm very scared.
Okay, what's your
This
first
is
story
from an
called?
unknown place. We don't know where this is from. It's called Haunting at a Hotel. It says, I was staying in a hotel on a family holiday. The hotel used to be a Georgian gentleman's residence in the 1700s and still has its Georgian interior today. When I was sleeping one night, I was in bed and sleeping. I was woken up by someone stroking my hair. I thought it was my mum until she said it wasn't. Ooh.
Ooh.
When we were watching TV, I saw my mum looking in the mirror on the wall, and her face turned white. Might have been makeup. I went to the shower. I went to have a shower, and whilst checking the temperature of the water, I saw a figure of a young boy, aged about 12, ducking behind the door. He had black floppy hair and was dressed in Victorian clothes. I told my mum, and she said she had seen him in the mirror prior to this. That night, my brother, who was staying in the room above us, was awoken by the banging on his door and the sound of young children laughing. He told the receptionist the next day, and he was informed by the staff that there were no children present in the hotel at the time. In the middle of dinner that night, I went upstairs to grab my phone and noticed that it was on top of the wardrobe. While standing on a chair to reach it, something bumped into me and I fell off the chair. Finding my feet again to get up, an invisible hand stroked my hair. How did he know it was a hand? And my phone was lying by my side. I bolted out of the room. That night I was awoken by someone stroking my hair again and the whispering, I'm sorry. When we told the staff about the goings on, they said the past guests have reported sightings and the sound of children at the hotel.
Ooh.
The hotel was once an orphanage.
Ooh.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, that's spooky, man.
Spooky, scary.
Spooky.
Oh, your turn.
Well, the story I'm going to tell you is called White Wolf, and it's excerpted from something called Spooky, Texas.
Oh, the person that wrote that one, by the way, was called Katie.
Right. Okay, so this is a white wolf. She snapped awake out of a deep sleep, screaming aloud in terror. In her nightmare, a large white wolf who had been chasing her around and around the house, gaining on her with every step until it finally pounced on her and ripped out her throat. Whoa. She lay shaking for hours, unable to sleep after such a terrifying dream. But morning finally arrived, and the day was completely normal. Celia forgot all about her dream until the moment her parents reminded her that they would be going out that night to celebrate their anniversary. Celia turned milk white. In her dream, the white wolf had come to kill her while the parents were out celebrating their anniversary. She started shaking and begging them not to go. Her parents were astonished at her behaviour and finally shamed her into staying home, alone, at night. Fearfully, Celia locked herself into the house as soon as her parents left, checking every door and every window. She tried to laugh it off as she got into bed, and finally she shook her irrational fear and fell asleep. Don't know if I said that word right there. Celia snapped awake suddenly, every muscle tense. She heard the tinkling of falling glass from a broken window, and the snuffling sound of a snap pressed to the floor. It was the sound of a hunting wolf, a werewolf. Real wolves did not break into houses when there was plenty of game outside. She could hear the clicking of the creature's claws on the wooden floor. The musky, foul smell of wet animal fur, combined with the meaty breath of a carnivore, drifted
For that
into the
thing.
room. It's a bit spooky, this. She could hear the werewolves panting right outside her bedroom. Then her body was out of bed and she sped through the bathroom and back and down the back stairs. She heard a soft growl and then the sound of animal feet pursuing her as she raced down the steps and tore open the back door. A glance at the window beside her showed a reflection of the werewolf leaping down the last few steps behind her. Celia's feet screamed in protest as she ran painfully across the sharp gravel driveway toward the tool shed with its shovels and baseball bats. Anything she could use as a weapon. But the huge red-eyed werewolf was suddenly between her and the tool shed, stalking toward her. The cold wind pierced her skin as she turned and fled around the side of the house. She gasped as the white wolf howled and took after her. She could hear the terrifying sound of the creature's pounding feet. Faster, faster, she commanded her legs, panting desperately against the fear choking her. She would run around the house and back down the driveway, she thought, with the clarity of sheer horror. She felt the wolf snap at her back leg and felt the sting of teeth. She put on speed. The wolf veered away from her suddenly, and she felt a rush of hope. She couldn't hear the wolf now, couldn't see it in the darkened night. She kept running around the house, heading back toward the tool shed. To her intense relief, she heard the sound of a car coming down the road in front of her house. Her parents were back and would save her from the wolf. Then her heart stopped in panic as she turned the last corner and saw the shape of a white wolf as it stood balanced on the porch railing right in front of her. It sprang upon Celia, huge teeth tearing into her flesh and ripping out her throat. She fell under the weight of its body, hot blood spilling all over the ground, and died seconds after she hit the ground. 1 minute later, her parents' car pulled into the driveway, its headlights blinding the white wolf as it pulled towards the house. Frightened, the wolf backed away from its kill and then ran away.
I thought what was going to happen is that like the car pulled in, and then she could hear the car, and then when she looked around the corner, she saw the wolf on top of the car, and instead of killing her, it killed both of her parents.
What I was expecting, for some weird reason, is that the wolf would just be in a suit and just get out of the car and just be like, "Hey there."
Oh yeah, what if her mum and dad were the wolves? They like... Yeah, and actually, it wasn't her parents driving the car, it was murderers coming to kill her. And yeah, anyway, non-believer converted after haunting experience in local pub.
I used to work at local pub, which was supposed to be haunted. However, I didn't believe until I saw it myself one Sunday afternoon. I went to office to collect my wages, and my boss was already down there. Instead of a very small room was a window which was boarded up from the outside, and I have been found many years. We were chatting, and then my boss stopped mid-flow and said, "Look at the window." I turned to see the handle moving as if it was open, but it couldn't. I didn't stop. It was trying to open over and over and over again. We watched for a few moments before running back upstairs. I now believe Katie Price, Aliens. That was uploaded by Daniel.
Thank you, Daniel. I've got an urban legend for you.
Oh.
Milk bottles. California ghost story.
Milk bottles! They're not real, everybody! Just your imagination.
Ready? She was just another poor, bedraggled woman, struggling to feed her family. You know, as most urban legends start. You saw them...
Most of them start with, I went to the garage sale.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I
Oh,
game.
bloody hell.
When I went home and put the game in my own Nintendo 64,
I saw my naked granddad dancing. Oh God.
Oh dear, that would be terrible.
I saw my uncle butt naked, pole dancing. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Oh dear.
Anyways, she was just another poor bedraggled woman struggling to feed her family. He saw them all the time, their faces careworn and blank. The depression had created hundreds of them. He was one of the lucky ones who still had his grocery and money coming in to feed his family. She came one day to his shop, carrying 2 empty milk bottles, and wordlessly placed them on the counter in front of him. He took the empties and replaced them with full bottles, saying, "10 cents, please." She did not reply. She just took the bottles and left the shop. He might have gone after her to demand his money or call the police, but he did neither. Her need was in her face, and he always felt a little guilty at being one of the lucky ones with money and a job. She was probably one of the migrant workers, he decided. She was back the next day with 2 empty milk bottles. He replaced them with full bottles and watched as she hurried out the door. She looked so worried that he wondered if she had a job at all. If she came back, he would offer her a part-time position cleaning the store. She came again the next morning, surprisingly, and exchanged her empty bottles for full without saying a word. He tried to talk to her to ask if she wanted a job, but she practically ran from the store with the milk. Her urgency worried him. He followed, wondering what he could do to help. To his surprise, she headed away from the migrant camp outside of town. She went instead to the graveyard by the river. As he watched, she hurried up to a stone marker and then disappeared into the ground. He rubbed his eyes in disbelief. Then he heard the muffled cry of a baby. It was coming from the ground, It was coming from the ground underneath the stone marker where the woman had disappeared. He ran back to the store and phoned the police. Within minutes, the graveyard was swarming with people, and the workers started digging up the grave. When the casket was opened, the store owner saw the woman who had visited his store lying dead within it. In her arms, she held a small baby and 2 full milk bottles. The baby was still alive.
Wait, did she give birth inside the coffin?
That'd be weird.
That'd be even creepier. Dead body just gives birth into the baby.
That would be really weird.
Now I've got one from Cornwall.
Oh dear.
Mummy, who's that man in the funny hat?
After a long day out with our kids, a friend and I were driving on our way back in the dark. And I took a turning of the main road from roundabout, as my friend said it was a shortcut. My baby was only 3 or 4 months old at the time.
Bloody days.
And he was found in a coffin! And he was crying at the top of his lungs. As I pulled over into the lie-by, with the single lamppost lighting the area, I looked back at him, only to see the outline of what looked like a man in a white-brimmed hat looking at us from the back of the window. I turned to my friend and said, "There's someone out there." She turned back and looked and said she couldn't see anyone. So I pulled myself together and ran to my baby, got him out and changed him. As I was leaning to put him back in his seat, I felt something brush up my back. Again, I ran back to my side of the car. As I got him, my friend's son asked me,
Mummy, who's that funny man in the white hat?
He was looking at me. He described exactly what I had seen, and I hadn't even had time to say. Without even putting my seatbelt on first, I sped out lay-by, and we were lost. Oh dear. My friend had no idea where we were. Eventually, we found the main road again. The funny thing is, I'd never been able to find out where we were or where that road was. I have done that journey many times, and it just leads to the motorway. Uploaded by Claire from Cornwall. So basically, there's a funny man in a white hat, and he was on this road that wasn't even there.
Like, ooh, what? How does that work if you can see him?
Huh?
How does that work if you can see him though? If you can see a man with a funny white hat.
Yeah, so basically, they're driving along, and then their friend says to them, the friend says to the guy, or girl, oh, if you see there, that's probably a shortcut. If we come off the main road, we can go down there, and it'll be a shortcut, because country roads at night, Tim, they're very quiet. On a main road, you get stuck in traffic. So they probably turn down this side path, right? And then they stopped because the baby was crying, so they changed the baby's nappy. And as he changed it, he felt something brush up and he saw something. And then her friend's son in the back of the car with the baby said, "Mummy, who's that man in the funny white hat?" Exactly what the guy had seen. And then he drove off and he started driving for ages and ages. And then they found the main road again. And every time he's done that journey over and over, he's never found the road that was there. The road disappeared.
Whoa.
That's what happened.
Well, there's some Halloween stories for you
Oh, oh, that's a creepy picture.
then. Oh.
The man's face in a doorway. Oh dear.
Oh. Well, that's all for now, it seems.
Well, I'll see you next time, kiddie.
Cheerio.
Don't wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that's it.
Wah! Wah! Wah!
Cheery bye now.
Wah! Wah! Wah!